Okay, guys, if you will get out your Unit 2 workbook, and if you will turn to page 45. We're going to be spending time looking at page 45, and then we're going to go to 46. So that's where we're going to start out. So this picture is on 45, and this is a diagram, and this is saying the amount of drink mix to the amount of water. And it says on page 45 that we made drink mixtures by mixing 4 teaspoons of powdered drink mix for every cup of water. And here are 2 ways to represent multiple batches of this recipe. So if you look, this is a diagram and this is a number line. Okay, and you see this on page 46. So the first thing you want to do is how can we tell if 4 to 1 and 12 to 3 are equivalent, if they're equal? And one of the ways you can do this, and I want you, if I'm writing it, you're writing it, is you take 4 over 1 and you see if it is equal to 12 over 3. Now we can prove this a couple of ways, but the easiest way is go, hey, what can I do to 4 to make it a 12? And I can multiply it by 3. Well, is 1 times 3 also 3? And that's a way to prove that you multiply by the same number. All right, let's look at number 2, still on page 46. How are these representations the same? Well, if we look at it, this is saying I have 4 teaspoons, I get 1. Well, this picture represents that. If I have 8 teaspoons, I have 2 cups of water. So they show the same information, but how are they different? Well, this one only goes to 8 and 2 cups of water, but the number line, what does it do? The number line shows more information or more drink mixtures. Okay, let's keep going. So we're still looking at this same picture. Again, diagram. This is called a double number line. And it says how many teaspoons of drink mix should be used with 3 cups of water. Now we know how much is used for 1 cup, and we know how much is used for 2 cups. So you maybe use the double number line and see if you can find out for 3 cups. Write it down. Okay, if you look at it, if we have 3 cups of water, it's going to be 12 teaspoons. And then it asks in number 4, how many cups of water should be used for 16 teaspoons of drink mix? So take a second, see if you can figure that out using the double number line. Write it down. Now let's check it. So we have 16 teaspoons, and we look down here to see how many cups? 4 cups. Now, what numbers should go in those empty boxes on the double number line? All right, well, let's think. We can either see if we can find a pattern, or this is equivalent ratio. So you take one thing that you know. Well, let's see. I guess we kind of have to go with what's the pattern. So we're going up by 4. And then we're going up by 4, and we're going up by 4. So maybe we need to go up by 4. What would that be? That would be 20. Or we could have looked at it and said, okay, well, if we're doing 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups, 4 cups, 5 cups. Now, one of the things that you could do is you could say, all right, well, I know that we're doing teaspoons to cups and I have 4 to 1. And I want to know, hey, I knew this has to be 5. So what does this have to be? Well, I times by 5, so I times by 5, and that's where I could get that 20. That's another way to do it. So what do these numbers mean? Well, what does the 20 mean? 20 teaspoons. What does the 5 mean? 5 cups of water. So that's what should be written in your notebook or in your workbook. I'm sorry. All right. So we talked about a double number line, and they call it a double number line diagram, but it's just uses a pair of parallel lines to represent equal ratios. Okay, so keep looking in your workbook, and we're going to be looking at page 47. 47. So that should look right here on page 47. And we have Elena's recipe for light blue paint. And if we look at it, we have 2 cups of paint for 6 tablespoons of blue. And they want you to complete the double number line and to show the amounts of white paint and blue paint in different size batches of light blue paint. So we're going to make this. And if we kind of look back at our double number line diagram from here, they labeled it. So we're going to make this white and we're going to make this blue. And you want to start off with, hey, I'm going to have, maybe we'll skip one and see if we can do it with 1 cup. So if I have 2 cups, I would have 6 tablespoons. Well, what about if I only went with 1 cup? How many would I have? Maybe 3? Because it, like here, this would be 1. All right. Now let's see, let's do a whole batch here and let's go with you filling out 4, maybe go with 6, 8, and let's say 10. So pause the video and see if you can fill that out. Okay. You should have taken a little bit of time and filled that out. And so if this is considered 1 batch, this would be considered a half a batch. But if we did 1 batch, this is 1 batch, then what about if we doubled it? This would be 2 batches. And so if we did 2 batches, we're timesing this by 2. So don't we need to times this by 2? And we would make that 12. If we look here, this would be 3 batches. So this was a half a batch. But this is 3 batches. So if you look in here, we could also kind of do it like this and say, okay, what's this? We timesed it by 3. So we times it by 3, 18. And then this was 4 batches. So we timesed it by 4. So then 4 times 8. Or well, we have to multiply 6 times 4 and get 24. And then this was 5 batches, so we times it by 5. So we times this by 5 and get 30. And that's our double number line for Elena. All right, let's keep going. Then question number 2, well, we're comparing it to mine, so we can move on. Number 3. How many cups of white paint should Elena mix with 12 tablespoons of blue paint? How many batches would she make? Well, we only went out to 10, right? Here, and that was 30. This was our white paint, and this was our blue paint. And we said this was 5 batches. Because again, remember, one batch was 2 to 6. This was one batch. So what we're asking is, how many batches of white paint, how many cups of white paint should Elena use with 12 teaspoons of blue paint? So let's look. And if we, I'm going to put this real quickly. 4, 12, 6, 18. Oh, I kind of mixed up. Okay, that's fine. So let's look. How many 12 teaspoons of blue paint? So we go to 12 teaspoons of blue paint. That's right here. And how much white? Well, we can just go right here. That would be 4 cups. And we said that, hey, if this was one batch, if you times it by 2, this would be 2 batches. So this is 2 batches, and we write that down. Then we look here. How many tablespoons of blue paint should Elena mix with 6 cups of white paint? Well, here's our 6 cups of white paint. And how many teaspoons? We go down here, 8 teaspoons, right? 8, no, tablespoons. I'm sorry, tablespoons. All right. And then the other, how many batches? Well, we times it by 3, so that would be 3 batches. 3 batches. So you should make sure that you have that written down on page 47. All right, I think, well, we have to move on to page 48 to make sure that we get our last couple of questions. And I'm going to just keep looking at our original one right there. Use your double number line to find another amount of white paint and blue paint that would make the same shade of light blue. Well, we dealt with 1 batch, 2 batches, and 3 batches, but what about 4 batches? So that would mean if we did 4 batches, that would mean that, hey, our original 1 batch, just so we kind of see this, was 2 to 6, but then we times it by 4, and we got 8 to 24. So 8 cups of white to 24 tablespoons of blue. And how do you know that these mixtures would make the same shades of light blue paint? Anybody have an idea? Because they're all equivalent. As we're multiplying, they're all equal. We are multiplying by the same number, the numerator and the denominator. Every time we're multiplying by the same number. Okay, so that's going to be on page 48 that you're writing. Okay, so this is in your notebook. So if you'll take a moment, pause the video, and see if you can write this in your notebook. When you're done, unpause it and let's check.